Futurist Jim Carroll from the virtual home broadcasting studio. And I've been running a series, Notable Keynotes, Lessons in Leadership for your eventual post-pandemic recovery. And today I want to talk about my 2006 keynote over in Zurich for the Swiss Innovation Forum, which was all related not just to innovation, but also obviously to skiing, because I am a late stage skier. I took up skiing at the age of 40. And by virtue of that ridiculous process, it actually became fodder for a lot of what I talk about in terms of the future, in terms of trends, in terms of disruptive thinking, and in terms of innovation. And to this day, the ability to take risk, the ability to do things that I might never try before, has had a profound impact on me, on my future, and my ability to align to the reality of what has occurred with COVID-19. I want to take you on a voyage right now of what happened, what transpired, and how innovation in the context of skiing can provide us so much inspiration for where we can go in the future. Let's think about the context of what was occurring here. I was invited in to speak at the Swiss Innovation Forum, and it was a conference with 600 CEOs and executives from major organizations, and my focus was to talk about what was happening in the global economy and what we needed to do to align ourselves to the reality. I got on stage and I did a fireball presentation, but shortly after that, being someone who only skied for 5 years in time, I went out and I actually skied the Swiss Alps, which I am staggered by to this very day. You have to understand the context of what was occurring here. I was never really athletic. I was never really into sports. In 2001, my family, my young sons, my wife and I took up this the sport of skiing. I was 40 years old, and the context of this is my sons were getting pulled into hockey. Now in Canada, hockey is something that the parents don't have a life. They sit in an arena in the morning drinking cold coffee. I did not want to be a hockey dad. My wife did not want to be a hockey dad. We wanted to do something to get through winter. If you're going to live in the winter, you need to embrace the season of winter. So we decided to take up skiing. And a weird quirk of the area of the world in which I live is we have a whole series of private ski clubs. There is no other region in the world that has something like that. Well, we ended up joining this private ski club to take up the sport of skiing. And I remember at the time the general manager said to me, "Well, how long have you skied?" And we said, "Well, we don't. We were brand new. We had no clue what we were doing. We had no idea of what we were getting ourselves into." And the context of this was we were out on the hill, absolute beginners, but deciding this was something that we needed to do. And the context of this, 2001, shortly after 9/11, the dot-com collapse, my previous focus on the internet and technology was coming to a close because everybody was negative on the future. And I decided the very first thing I needed to do in a recessionary period of time, in an economic collapse, was to make sure that I was doing the right things from a mental health perspective, to keep myself busy, keep myself focused, and focus on the future. And skiing became one of the means by which I would do that. And look, this turned into something magical. The whole process of skiing became a fuel for my creativity, where I was writing, for example, blog posts about the future of snowboarding and skiing, taking a look at the industry and thinking about what I was going through and putting that into perspective in terms of the long-term trends that would define this industry. There was a book that came out a number of years ago about the entire history of skiing, and when the author was interviewed about the 100-year-old history of skiing in North America, I was also quoted regularly for my views on what would happen in the future with this sport. So as a futurist, it became fuel for my creativity. I started writing observations about the sport by virtue of what I was going through, such as, for example, something that I wrote way back in 2010, imagining the future of the ski resort in the year 2015. And I was thinking about the impact of technologies like the Internet of Things and smart technology and webcams on the ski hill and the arrival of drones, and writing about the real-time impact on the sport. This started to gain some attention within the sporting industry. I was invited in, for example, to the Sporting and Fitness Industry Association to talk about the future of sports, talk about the world of connected sports, talk about a world in which we would see the next generation who are growing up on iPhones and iPads and connected technology redefine their sporting experience, and we would re-architect the development of sporting good technology and gear by virtue of these future trends. It didn't just stop there. This fuel for the creativity began to take over what I did, so I would film quirky little clips like Your Future in 120 seconds or less, where I would have a stabilizer webcam and I'm flying down the hill, actually carving pretty darn good, talking about the future of sports, talking about trends, talking about innovation, and not managing to fall down at the same time. The point of this is you can discover inspiration for your future. You can discover inspiration for your reinvention. You can discover opportunities that can redefine you through the things you do on a day-to-day basis. So if you follow me, you know every single morning I get up and I wrap together some inspirational, future-oriented quote that I share with over 50,000 people. And many of the posts that come through the winter involve what I learn out on the ski hill. So this one day, innovate like you ski, continuously tune your technique because you can never presume that you're going to be good at what you do. I've also discovered that the future I have predicted has actually come true. Last year, I got to ski with the atomic smart boot technology, which measured every single turn, measured my carving ability, measured my performance on the hill, and led to a whole new opportunity to get engaged with the sport. Not only that, it fueled my observations on the workplace. I ended up writing an article years ago about a conversation I had with a snowboarder dude going up the ski lift, and I observed that, the entire focus of the next generation, while our generation might define ourselves by virtue of the success we've had in their career, they define themselves by their ability to enjoy life, because his comment to me about a job offer that he got from an engineering firm was they wanted him to work 9 to 5, and his attitude was, don't mess with my powder, dude. There's fresh powder in the hills. I'll get the work done. I'll go out and, bored in the morning, enjoy my time, and then I'll get the work done. Entire focus of work-life balance is changing with the next generation. I mean, it's been an absolutely magical ride to realize how a small decision for my family has had such a profound impact on where I would go with my life and my career, and in terms of what I could accomplish. It's been an amazing voyage, and I want to share with you a little bit of the insight that I've learned along the way. Here's the thing. When I did this talk for the World Swiss Innovation Forum in 2006, it became a fodder for a lot of what I would talk about in the future. For example, when I went on stage there, I talked about the innovation killers, and these are the attitudes that hold back a lot of organizations from pursuing the future. And I was putting that in perspective in the context of what I was going through with my previous 5-year experience as a novice skier. Attitudes such as, it's too risky, it can't be done, we'll never succeed. I would talk about the corporate cultures that would hold us back from pursuing big and bold ideas. In Zurich in 2006, I launched my 10 Great Words, and this became a powerful creative force that I shared with people on the attitudes that could take them forward into the future. And again, the roots of this insight was found in skiing. What I found over time is I would get out on the ski hill, and while I'm skiing and focusing on my technique, I'm also thinking about the innovation and disruption attitudes that could help us survive. And you have to understand how much of an absolute novice I was, and what a ridiculous situation my family and I got ourselves into. Now, I had skied very early on in my life. Growing up in Southern Ontario, my sister who I lost a couple of years ago to pancreatic cancer, we were out on the local ski hill, a local ski bump, from the ages of 8 to 10 years old. But then I disappeared for quite some time. But when 9/11 happened, we decided we needed to adopt this in order to redefine our winter life. And we joined a ski hill north of Toronto, a private ski club known as Georgian Peaks. And you have to understand the Peaks. It has a reputation for being steep and challenging. We had no idea what we were doing. And we arrived 2001. and proceeded to get out onto the hill. Look, it was a pretty ridiculous experience, and I actually have video of just how challenging an experience it turned out to be. And we seem to have some small glitch happening here in that it's not advancing. Here we go. So here's actual video from 2002. This is my son, Thomas, coming down the hill. And then you can see in the other scene, that's me. I was a master of the snowplow effect for quite some time. My wife was at the bottom of the hill. She was filming me and watched this spectacular wipeout as I miss a turn. And it doesn't go well. I'll play this for you again because, I mean, it's just too ridiculous to watch. It was just 4 years after this that I found myself skiing the Swiss Alps. And I wasn't snowplowing at that point in time. I actually managed to survive and do it with a little bit of finesse. But the entire process has taught me a lot of innovation-specific insight along the way. And a number of years ago, shortly after the Swiss Innovation Forum, I wrote a blog post with respect to what I'd learned through the process of skiing. And I think these provide some invaluable points that can guide us as we go into a new and complex and volatile future as a result of the global pandemic and COVID-19. We're all having to reinvent ourselves. We're all having to discover a new world. We are all having to figure out how do we do in the past, but do it in a different way in the future. And it's just like taking up skiing late in life. The process of reinvention, the process of redefining yourself, the process of defining new skills, the process of taking on work. All of these lessons came to me from what I went through in adopting this sport late in life. Number one, you need to be relentless in your focus. Number two, you need to commit. If you're going to do this type of thing, if you are going to reinvent, you need to commit to what you're going to accomplish. You need to stick to your goals. My goal was to be able to develop a life through the winter in which I could spend time with my wife and my sons and my friends through the process of skiing because we wanted to embrace winter. You need to consistently acknowledge your progress. You need to give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back when you're developing a new skill, developing a new capability, reinventing yourself. Consistently acknowledge your process. You need to be willing to admit that you know absolutely nothing. I knew absolutely nothing the very first time that I was getting out on a ski hill as an adult. But you have to be willing to learn. You need to be in a mindset for reinvention and the adoption of something new, that you are willing to soak in all kinds of new knowledge to do things that you've never done before. You have to conquer the fear that you might fail because it is pretty likely that you will, and you have to use failure as an opportunity. You have to accept that you're at the bottom of the barrel. At my particular ski club, there's a lot of ski racers and skiers who are way better than me, and I will never measure up to their ability. When I was starting, I mean, it was absolutely bad. It was absolutely terrible. I was a bit of a joke on the hill. I was willing to accept that I was starting at the bottom of the barrel. But with that in mind, you have to realize that you will gain respect for your determination to proceed. I think I have inspired some people over the years with my constant ability to learn and to try. And what that really teaches us is you need to make perseverance your cornerstone. You don't give up. You keep plugging away. You keep going down the hill. You keep learning to carve. You keep trying to do things you haven't done before. You keep working on your technique. You never give up. And that's what we need as we go into an eventual post-pandemic recovery. With that in mind, though, you have to accept that progress and success will come slowly. I think it's taken me a good 20 years to get to the point where I look fairly half decent on the hill, and yet I know I've got a long way to go to achieve any type of success. You need to know your limits. Look, we have a couple of steep hills, including one known as Wilson's Wiggle, which is essentially a cliff, and I will only ski on that a couple of times a year when the conditions are perfect, when the sun is out and the snow is off, because I know my limits and that I will never be able to achieve some of the things I might hope to achieve. But you've got to be of a mindset that you can regularly inspire those around you with your progress. I mean, these are the lessons that you can take from weaving a sport or a goal or an accomplishment, a skill, into your everyday life. You need to be willing to ask for help. You need to understand you can't do it all on your own. And the fascinating thing is about when I went and skied the Swiss Alps, I'd only been skiing for 4 or 5 years. And I had been booked for this keynote for this massive global conference, the Swiss Innovation Forum. And I said to my wife, I want to go ski the Swiss Alps. She said, you're crazy. You're not doing it on your own. You've got to find someone to go. I've got 2 young children. We need a plan. Well, I had a very good buddy at the local ski club, Dennis Craig. And he was an expert skier, and he and his family seemed to adopt my family early on to assist us because it was obvious we had no idea what we were doing. And I sent him a text message one day and I said, here's the thing, I can get you to Europe and ski with me in the Swiss Alps. I need someone to go with me. It took him all of about 2 seconds to respond, yes. And so he came out and he guided me through these massively complex mountains. And to me, this was a huge milestone. It was a marker of success. For me, it was a marker of innovation. For me, it was a marker of the disruption that I could cause in my own life. Many other things happened along the way. I alluded to the fact that I started talking about the future of sports, the future of trends, the future of disruptive change occurring in the sporting industry. And this led to a tremendous number of speaking gigs over the years with a tremendous number of different associations. For example, I wrote about the fact that we were seeing the emergence of smart, connected sporting good technology. Think about a baseball bat with embedded microchips that might do swing analysis, or a golf club that has GPS tracking built into it so we can track our game, or imagine a world of the connected ski boot that might monitor and manage our progress. And it was an absolute thrill last year when I had the opportunity to ski on the Atomic Smart Boots. And I've got all kinds of data, as I joke, that really proves to me just how bad a skier I am. Not only that, the entire process of skiing became fuel for the fodder, for the imagination and creativity insight, which I share with 50,000 people through social media channels and my website every single day. Look, every single morning I get up and I take some photo from a stage or some photo having to do with my work activities. But every once in a while I take a photo and I share my daily inspirational quote with a focus on what I've learned out on the ski hill. So this one, for example, there's always an opportunity for improvement. There's always an opportunity to define yourself with enthusiasm. Another one that came up one day, find the thing that makes you most uncomfortable. Do that thing. That defines my approach to skiing. It should define your approach to what you do through your day-to-day life. A very good friend of mine, Louise Craig, and I were out skiing one day, and she observed that what I need to do is I need to focus on my situational awareness as I go down the hill, because any particular snow clump, any particular snow groove, any particular deep powder might send me off my rails and cause me to tumble. And that became a quote in which I was talking about the future in terms of how you define your situational awareness. It didn't stop there. At our local ski club, we have actually had a number of world champions, World Cup ski racers, including one young lady named Larissa Urquhart, who actually went on to race second to Lindsey Vonn in the World Cup. And I had the opportunity to talk and ski and focus with her on much of what she was doing through her post-career as a bit of a motivational speaker. And we went out and skied one day, and I turned that into an opportunity to talk about the focus for agility, flexibility. It's not just World Cup racers that you have the opportunity to ski with that can redefine your life. We have a young fellow at our club named Michael Simon. Michael has special needs. And Michael was, the parents of Michael were told he would never be able to ski. Michael has become a snowboarder, and you should see this young fellow go down a hill. I take so much inspiration from watching individuals who are told that they cannot accomplish something, and they do something magical while they're out there. And that brings me to Kathy Butler, Peter Butler, and Thomas Butler, another very good friend of ours at the local club. Thomas, too, has special needs. And Thomas here is with my son, Thomas, and Thomas Craig, another very good friend, the 3 Thomases. Thomas has Down syndrome. His parents have worked with him to focus so much of his efforts on what he can do to enjoy some of the magic of life. And I tell you, there is something absolutely magical, powerful, motivational, inspirational when you see this young man going down the ski hill. He also was told that he would never be able to accomplish this. When 9/11 happened, and when the coronavirus pandemic settled in, my focus became what I needed to do to reinvent myself for the future. And my focus became, what could I do to maintain my sense of optimism? My focus became, what could I do to ensure that I would establish myself doing something different in the future, developing new skills? I take a lot of that inspiration from an event that occurred with young Thomas Butler with special needs. We had a Christmas dinner a couple of years ago for the charity for which Thomas is a part. It's called Events for Life. And I was doing a little talk about what we could do in the community to accelerate support of this initiative. And Thomas came running up to me as soon as I mentioned his name and stood there with me while I did my talk. And all I could remember is this is a young man with special needs who was advised, his parents were advised, he would never be able to accomplish skiing. He would never be able to do it. It is magical when you see him go down the hill. All of this gives you insight for your post-COVID strategies. We're in a disruptive period of time. We're in a world in which everything is changing. And what I did when 9/11 happened and when the dot-com collapse happened was I decided I needed to do something to reinvent my life, reinvent my future, and have an opportunity to not focus on the negative, but to focus on the opportunities, to focus on the future, to focus on opportunity, to do something that would be inspirational, that would drive me forward. And so much of that has come through my ability to learn to ski at the age of 40, and eventually leading into what I talked about on stage at the Swiss Innovation Forum, and which eventually became fuel for much of what I talk about today in terms of innovation, disruption in the future. So as you are examining your world of post-COVID leadership, what are you doing to redefine your sense of optimism for the future? I go back to where we were in 2001 and what we managed to accomplish. Now, my young sons have grown up. They have a girlfriend, they have a fiance, and this has become the ultimate family sport, where we get together on the weekends and we continue to throw ourselves off the hill, down the hill, redefining our future. It's led me into a mindset in which I've been able to redefine and reinvent my future based upon the virtual broadcast studio down here, where all I have is this green wall, but I have a canvas of creativity by which I can do things I would not have imagined would be possible just over a year ago, nor which I would have imagined that would be required just 9 months ago. And here I am now in a situation in which I'm reinventing my future, reinventing my life, reinventing my skills by virtue of a big green room in my basement. I decided the other day that what I needed to do was I needed to innovate further in the green screen broadcast studio in terms of having a real chair, in terms of having a backdrop with snow coming down, in terms of doing a show around skiing in the Swiss Innovation Forum. And I proceeded to take a chair from one of the rooms upstairs and dragged it down. I was bumping walls. And my wife comes along, "What the heck are you doing?" And she came down here with me yesterday and looked at the set and said, "We need to do something different to make it look a little bit better." And so we proceeded to put this together, and I proceeded to put together a show and proceeded to develop yet another capability that I never imagined I would have. I'm on a path to reinvention. What are you doing in this post-COVID world of massive complexity, volatility, challenge to reinvent yourself for the future? That's the leadership lesson. That's what you need to focus on. Optimism is oxygen. You can find it. You can find the inspiration that you need to continue going forward into the future through something as magical as what you do with your everyday life. The last key point, my little friend, the snowman over here, this was actually built by these special needs young adults at the charity that we have been involved with for quite some time, Events for Life. Events for Life, too, has had a profound impact on what we do because it is proven that individuals who we might think could never accomplish something could do something great. I'd encourage you to visit their website, learn a little bit more, maybe consider a donation. Events4.life is the website. I'm going to close by playing the video clip of my innovation talk, a short 90 seconds, over at the Swiss Innovation Forum, with a little bit of the hokey music close that I put on it when I release this to my website. Thank you for watching. I hope you take some inspiration in this. If you want to learn more about what I'm doing here in the virtual studio, visit virtual.jimcarroll.com. They look at the world as a challenge. They go into work every single day. We are going to do things differently because the world is different. Do you know what? It's those folks, it's those organizations, it's those companies who are truly innovative and are discovering what it takes to survive in the economy of the 21st century. Do things you've never done before. Try to do things you've never done. With full understanding, you simply might not succeed at doing them. After I finish here, I'm off to Grindelwald. I'll be skiing there tomorrow night. I couldn't ski 5 years ago. I would now rank myself as a pretty good, medium to expert intermediate. It should be a fun day. Check my website on Tuesday. You'll know whether I'm alive or not. Thank you very much for your time.